Chapter 1. In the silence. In the northeastern countryside of Australia, far from civilization and hours away from the nearest town, there stood a lonely house. It sat in the middle of a wide stretch of farmland, surrounded on all sides by towering eucalyptus trees. Years ago, it had been abandoned by its former owners, until Daniel restored it. Daniel was one of those who longed to escape city life, to return to the soil and to nature. When he met Emma and showed her the house for the first time, she had shivered. "It's too quiet, too desolate," she had said, but the hope in Daniel's eyes convinced her. "We can build a new life here. No noise, no chaos, just us." At first, the days truly were peaceful. Emma would step out onto the veranda each morning and watch the sun rise through the mist. The only sounds were birds' song, the distant thump of kangaroos, and occasionally the barking of their dog Rex. After years of exhausting hospital shifts in the city, this new life was a kind of healing for her. Daniel spent his days tending to their small garden, caring for the animals, and chopping wood, but the nights were different. When darkness fell over the forest, even the smallest creak echoed like thunder, branches snapping, the rustle of leaves in the wind, and sometimes strange, unidentifiable sounds. Emma tried to convince herself it was nothing. Daniel always reassured her, "This is the wild, Em. Maybe just a possum in the bushes, nothing to be afraid of." That night, their dog Rex suddenly began barking. Normally, he barked at foxes or wild dogs, but this was different. The growl in his throat was deeper, angrier, more threatening. Emma shot out of bed. Daniel was already awake. Together, they stepped onto the veranda. The moonlight painted the ground in pale silver. At the edge of the forest, a dark silhouette stood motionless. At first glance, it was impossible to tell if it was a person or just the shadow of a tree. Daniel narrowed his eyes and gripped Emma's hand. The figure did not move. Rex barked furiously, his hackles raised. Then slowly, the shadow seemed to slip back into the forest. "Could have been a kangaroo," Daniel said, though hesitation lingered in his voice. Emma didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the spot where the figure had vanished. A sickening feeling settled in her chest, that someone had been watching them. Back in bed, she couldn't sleep for hours. Lying awake, staring at the moonlight streaming through the window, only one thought echoed in her mind: is someone out there watching us? The next day, while Daniel worked outside, Emma sat on the veranda with her coffee, her eyes glued to the forest. She replayed the night over and over in her mind. Then, suddenly, she noticed the gate on the wire fence near the house. It was open, swinging slightly as though pushed. Rex growled low beside her, ears pricked. Emma stood, her chest tight. As she approached the fence, she froze. In the damp soil were footprints, large bare footprints. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to call Daniel, but just then, the tractor engine roared to life. She looked back at the prints, fresh, leading straight into the forest. That night, dinner was tense. Emma told Daniel about the prints. He frowned. "Maybe poachers came through. They're still around sometimes. Don't worry, I'll reinforce the fence." But Emma wasn't convinced. The prints looked too fresh, and far too close. Days passed. Everything seemed normal. Birds during the day, garden work, small conversations, but at night, the strangeness continued. One evening, the kitchen light turned itself on. Emma swore she had switched it off. Daniel offered a calm explanation, probably a fault in the circuit, but the most terrifying thing appeared on their veranda, a small wooden plank. On it, strange carvings, crossed lines, circles, symbols she didn't recognize. Emma refused to touch it. Daniel, frustrated, snatched it up and threw it into the distance. "Kids playing pranks," he said, but there were no kids for miles. The nearest neighbors lived kilometers away. That night, Rex barked again. This time, his barking was broken by sharp whines. Emma rushed to the window. The dog stood rigid, growling at the trees, and then a shadow darted across the window. Too fast to see clearly, Emma screamed. Daniel ran to turn on the lights, bolted outside, but no one was there, only the cold wind. Emma trembled. "Someone's here, watching us," she whispered. Daniel tried to comfort her, but there was doubt in his eyes, and from that night forward, peace never returned to their home. Every creak, every flicker of shadow set them on edge, and deep inside, Emma felt certain of one thing: this is only the beginning.